All right, welcome to another episode of The Brothers of Metal. Emphasis on the. We made a slight change to our channel name as it was sort of taken. So we are now The Brothers of Metal. We have another special episode today. We'll be ranking Symphony X records from worst to best, like we did with Dream Theater. This is the first band that John and I bonded over, and so we thought this was a good band to rank. So
it's time.
John, we will start with you.
All right.
With we're going to do 3 at a time. So let's hear your 9 through 7.
Right on. Okay. I mean, this is probably my second favorite progressive metal band behind Dream Theater, but not too far behind.
Mine too. Yeah.
They definitely were the first one I got into.
Okay.
We told the story in the first episode, but I mean, Of Sins and Shadows was where it started for me, and that completely shaped my musical interests in one song. In 5 minutes, it was changed forever.
Yeah.
So
Same here.
Excited to do this. Been a fan for a very long time. So I'm going to start off with number 9 here, which would be the self-titled.
Yep.
Which is
that was probably
no
an easy one. Yeah.
Yeah. There is some great songwriting on this one. I mean, there's some great riffs. Soloing's tremendous from, of course, Romeo and Pinella, and it's as far as debuts go, if we were just judging it based on the songwriting and the music, love it.
Yeah.
It's just the vocals, right?
Yeah.
One of those things.
Yep. They made a gigantic leap.
They sure did. And, just by example, when you get a chance to hear Masquerade 98 that appears as a bonus track on the on the Odyssey, I mean, you can get a sense right there of what this record could have been.
Yeah.
And they toyed with re-recording it with Russell.
I wish they did, yeah.
Never did. Maybe someday. But that's number 9. Number 8, and I really like this album. So from here on out, love all these albums. Could just about listen to them anytime.
Mm-hmm.
But we gotta go in order here as far as our favorites, and I am gonna have to go with the follow-up to the debut, which is the Damnation game.
Okay.
1995, and some great songs on here. I do miss some of the more mellow aspects of this band that we really had showcased here on Damnation game, and of course there's still heavy riffs, and it's an older production, so
yeah.
You don't quite get the sense of just how heavy some of this stuff is now.
Yeah,
all these
definitely.
But there's still some really, really great songs, and of course, the opener is kind of the sort of became their go-to as far as opening themes. It's heavy, it's fast, it has a classical influence.
Yeah,
really love that. Some great ballads on here too, and then we kind of get our first hint at an epic with Winter's Dream Part 1 and 2.
Yep.
But still really, really like this album. Got to put it somewhere. And then number 7. This is tough because I know a lot of people love this album, and it I've definitely grown to appreciate it more. But again, I got to put it somewhere, and I like the other ones just that much more. So I'm gonna go with Iconoclast.
Okay.
My number 7. 2011, and I mean, this album is just epic, as can be, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's I think their heaviest. Romeo talked about just how much he was listening to Black Sabbath and how that influenced. You wouldn't necessarily hear the Black Sabbath influence per se, but if you were to sort of, marry Black Sabbath into the Symphony X sound, I suppose, this is kind of what you end up with. There's not like a epic length track like the Odyssey or Divine Wings, but there's definitely some longer songs.
Pretty close. The opening track, I think, clocks in around 10 minutes. So yeah.
But lyrically, it's a fascinating album, and so far ahead of its time. I mean, think about where we're at today in 2022, a whole 11 years later. I mean, songs like "Children of the Faceless God," which, taken just by its title, it doesn't really give away what it's about. But I mean, it's about this technology that we're glued to. I mean,
yeah,
really, really profound. When All Is Lost has got to be, it's up there with one of their best. It's not like a pure ballad, but
no,
it's definitely.
That's almost an epic.
Yeah,
It's close, but it has some softer moments. Maybe that album needed a little more soft moments, but he said he was influenced a lot by the 300 soundtrack too. I think around that time.
Oh, okay.
You get that like super. It's almost like a different tone to his guitar, and it was just really relentlessly heavy.
Right. Yeah, Russell looks like he could have been an extra in that movie.
Yeah, he does. He does.
So I have to ask, do you know what songs were not on the standard edition? Because what I was going to say is if you get a hold of this, you got to get the double disc because
for sure
those extra tracks are a must.
Yeah, they I can't remember.
Maybe just
I think they separated it by what was included. I think the second disc just has 3 songs, right?
No, it has 5 songs.
It was 5 songs. It was 3 songs that were not included on the original, or on the single disc, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Well, anyway.
What was the title of the last song is amazing too. What's the title of that one? On the second disc.
Oh, Rain and Madness.
Rain and Madness. Man, it's a good song. Yeah.
All right, bro, your turn.
All right. So yeah, as John was saying, Symphony X was the first really heavy band I got into, the first metal band. I think I had maybe listened to Dio a little bit, so it was a nice transition from Dio to Russell. But I really had no exposure to metal until Symphony X, and I was just blown away. It opened up a whole new world for me as well. So I'm going to start with number 9, and I'd have to agree with John. It would definitely be the self-titled, and like in the case with Dream Theater, I never listened to it. So once I really had no reason to. Russell is just so much of an upgrade that I just couldn't go back and listen to anyone else. So yeah, other than the re-recorded Masquerade, I've never heard anything on the album. Moving on. So we're gonna have the same first 3 here. Damnation Game would be number 8, and I would say it's a very good album. Overall, the songs are really strong. Obviously, you get the enormous upgrade at singer. I love the title track, as John mentioned. I love the song The Edge of Forever. I think that's the highlight on the record. But I feel like the band was still sort of finding themselves at this point. They hadn't really perfected their sound. I think Russell was still kind of growing as a singer. I'm guessing this is the first album he's ever appeared on. So yeah, and I think the album's a little too short. I think it clocks in around 42, 43 minutes. You add another 10 minutes onto it, and maybe we're talking something better, although I don't think it leapfrogs any of the other albums, even with some extra time. Yeah. So my number 7, same as John's, would be Iconoclast. This is the first album. Well, I became a fan. This album came out a few months after I became a fan. So I was so excited for this record. I think I got it a week early because I pre-ordered it online. And oh man, I listened to this record for like 2 months straight. And at this point, it's so hard to rank Symphony X records because, like I said in our last video, or maybe the video before that, that Symphony X could do no wrong other than the self-titled because it doesn't have Russell. But really, it's a toss-up. I could flip these tomorrow. But anyway, love this album. There's no bad song on the record. I would say maybe there's a couple that border on filler songs that maybe if you cut off a couple and added the songs from the double disc, make it a single disc, I think it would have helped a little bit. I forgot the song that I would cut, even though I love all the songs, but I don't have the album in front of me. What's track 7, John? Maybe you can help me out here. I think it's around 7.
Oh, you don't want to cut 7. That's when
What's
all is
7?
lost. But you have Heretic is 5. That might be the one I would go with.
What about what's 8?
Electric Messiah.
No, I like that one. I love it. I love it all.
Yeah. No, keep it. We want the filler. That's one thing about Symphony X is there's not this deep collection of B-sides. I mean, they write for the release, and then that's what you get.
Yeah, I think I was maybe being overly critical by calling it a filler song, but I would say, as much as I like the lyrical concept, I feel like every song is about the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
But it's not a concept record. I think they should have turned it into a concept album, and I think it would have been much better. And you could maybe make an argument that it's the most non-Symphony X sounding record. It doesn't really, you don't really hear their old sound really at all on this record per se. Maybe a few moments, and maybe it's a little too guitar centric, and Michael Pennella doesn't get a chance to shine as much as other records. But other than that, it's still an amazing album. So
absolutely. And remember our I want to say we heard the single together maybe when it came out,
did.
The End of Innocence.
End of Innocence, yep. And what's the other single? Sorry.
The other single was Dehumanized.
Oh yeah, both those songs were amazing.
Yeah, and I remember was this right before Adrenaline Mob or right after?
No, it's before.
Right, but it's pretty close, right? The Adrenaline Mob debut came out shortly after this.
It's probably, I want to say it's like at least a year or two before Adrenaline Mob.
Okay.
I could be wrong,
well,
but
that gave us a taste into that vocal style that Russell was starting to explore.
Yeah.
Just quite a bit more, I'd say, aggressive. I mean, he started to toy with it on Paradise Lost for sure.
True.
But
yep.
that was something that took some adjustment. That's why
Yeah.
I think When All Is Lost is such a refresher. But when we heard The End of Innocence together, I remember thinking, I mean, gosh, I was completely blown away by that track. And then hearing the rest of the album,
so
that's why it took me this album a while to grow on me, because I think as a whole, it's a bit of a deviation from that first single. So that was a bit of a surprise, I thought.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. All right, John.
Number 6.
You're number 6.
Number 6, I'm going to go with the latest one.
Underworld, okay.
And this one also was a little bit of a grower, because I think first single was Nevermore.
Yes. Yep.
And man, there's some tasty playing on that. Michael Romeo, he's just all over the place. Love it.
Yeah. Yep.
Without You is so great. That might have been the second single, I think.
I think that's one of their best songs, to be honest with you.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love having the overture.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool to have that instrumental section in the beginning.
Yep.
And there's just some really, really cool songs on here. I mean, there's also some things that they, I mean, in their style, but maybe a little more conventional, kind of hard rock stuff, I think, with like Run with the Devil.
Yeah, really hooky stuff, catchy songs on this one.
Yeah. That
aren't quite as heavy as Iconoclast, because Iconoclast had moments like that, like Bastards of the Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of had more of a rock feel, but a little heavier.
Yeah, so what's cool about this one, I think, is it brings back a little more of that neoclassical thing.
Mm-hmm. There's a few nods back to their old sound, which Romeo did comment on. Yeah. Oh
yeah, for sure. And at the same time, yeah, like you said, there's that plus exploring some new territory for sure. Production wise, mix wise, exceptional. Yep. Absolutely exceptional.
I think, did Jens mix that one too? I want to say he mixed their last 3.
I think he was the mastering engineer.
Yeah. He's a genius. We call him JB.
I'm JB.
That's our guy. Whatever he mixes.
And mixing guys.
Yep.
He's definitely got his thing. It's awesome.
Yep.
Next for me is going to be Twilight.
Oh man, I didn't know you'd have it that far down.
Yeah, 9 albums.
Yeah.
Just to say far down, but
that's true.
Famously, this is an incomplete record, as Romeo's talked about a lot, where they were a bit rushed, and there were some ideas that they ended up having to just reuse when they got to the 5th album. So
did not know that.
Yeah, there was supposed to be an epic with this one, even though
well, how long is
already quite long?
Yeah,
13 minutes.
I thought of that as an epic. So
yeah, even Church of the Machine is a little longer, but this album kicks off though, like almost up there with the Sins and Shadows. I mean,
oh yeah, Smoke and Mirrors.
Smoke and Mirrors is great. Very out of the ashes kind of that.
I love that neoclassical sound that I wish they would bring back a little more, but yeah.
Yep. I like Sonata. It's cool that they did something like that, where it's just very, very much like Romeo's solo album, and Still some really heavy moments. The Relic is super heavy. Orion is very heavy.
Is it Dragon's Den? What's it called?
Yeah, in the Dragon's Den.
In the Dragon's Den, that's
Also
heavy too. Yep.
Yeah, but this is still a great album, and just all around great performances. Just classic Symphony X all around.
Yep.
So got to put that there. And then number 4 is going to be Paradise Lost.
Okay.
Paradise Lost is where I sort of took a little bit of a break from Symphony X for a while. That was, I don't know, just where I was at in life. This is 2007. I should for sure bought this the day it came out.
Okay.
I don't even remember what the singles were.
You have the jewel case, right?
No, I have the digipack that has this.
That little thing that folds out. It's really sweet.
Oh, yeah, we gotta show this because I don't think.
Oh yeah.
But it's like it's pretty ridiculous, but also super
it's cool.
It's one of those things where you're just like, I just want to get the CD out, and you're fighting with it to like.
I know.
Figure this out.
That's sometimes the problem with digipacks, even though they look so cool. Sometimes you almost have to break the disc to get it out. You know, it's frustrating.
Yeah. Like blues coming off the back.
Yeah.
But it's also a little too wide to fit into a standard CD shelf, I've noticed. So that's a bummer. But anyway.
That is a bummer.
The artwork is killer on this. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
Super epic. And I mean, Paradise Lost has got to be one of my top 5 Symphony X songs. I mean, it's just
definitely. Yep. You always say it's like that one of the few songs that they could play acoustically.
Yeah.
It would just be amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely. But really, really like this album. It's super heavy. It's probably the most guitar-centric album up to this point.
Yes.
The guitars are just so loud.
Yeah.
That's okay, because when you really get into it and play it back and really kind of digest it, you know, you can still really get that symphonic element. And and this is another one.
I mean, the production is it's such a leap forward too, and it's just tonally it's something else.
100%. And another record, just like Underworld, starts off with a kind of a choral orchestral thing in the.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it.
Sweet.
Moving on to you.
All right, number 6. I think you'll be surprised because I think this will be one of your favorites. I'm going to go with V, the New Mythology Suite, as my number 6. Okay. And it's an amazing album, but for whatever reason, the songs just aren't etched on my memory like a lot of their other stuff. It's like I'll go back and listen to it, and I'll be like, oh yeah, you know, like I have to jog my memory, and it's the only album I kind of have to do that. It's their one.
Has to be taken as a whole, I think. That's.
Yeah, I think so. It's their one actual concept album, but for whatever reason, it doesn't. I can't follow the story. I don't know. It doesn't feel like a concept album. There's almost other albums they've released that feel more like a concept, and I don't know what the story is. Because I love Greek mythology and stuff like that, so that's what kind of drew me to Symphony X. So I kind of like to know what it's about going in. But anyway, it's still amazing. I think it's just a tour de force album for Russell. He's incredible on this album. I had to go back and listen to it before we made this video. But I think the song Fool's Paradise is like when I was really getting into Symphony X, that was the song, especially coming from like a fan of, you know, classic rock like Foreigner and stuff, like super catchy, clean vocals, where I was just playing that song over and over and over again, and it's super catchy. And then I would say Rediscovery Part 2 might be my second favorite, you know, epic song from Symphony X. Yeah. And that, especially that moment, and I had to clock it here, the 4:54 mark, where it has that, you know, that real clean, you know, pretty section from Russell with the lyrics, you know, lost evermore, the essence of truth. Although she tried in vain to bring us peace, it will never rest in our hand. That part, I'll save you with not singing it, but I could nail it. Anyway, I love that part. That's the one. Very few times in my move to almost tears from music, and that like hit me. Like, especially the first time I heard it, I remember like rewinding it as I'm driving on my iPod. Like, oh my gosh, what did I just hear? One of my favorite Russell moments. All right, number 5, I'm going to go with Underworld, their last release that came out like a decade ago. We're ready for another Symphony X album, aren't we, John?
Decade? Oh, 2015.
It's like it's 7 years.
We're ready.
We're approaching 8 years probably. I think we're gonna get one next year. I'm pretty sure.
So. Yep.
Anyway, this way I classify this record is like 50% Iconoclast, 25% Paradise Lost, and maybe 25% classic Symphony X. I could be a little off with the numbers there, but pretty close.
Not science, but
no, not an exact science. Without You, I think it's up there amongst their best songs. That could have been a radio song. That is amazing. And as we were talking about before, their production value and the mix just took a huge leap forward over the last few records. And this record especially, I think, is the best sounding Symphony X record. I don't know if you'd agree, but anyway,
yeah.
We said before that these songs are just super catchy, really get stuck in your head.
And yeah, while you were talking about that, I looked it up for sure. That was our man JB on mixing and mastering.
Man is a genius.
Yes.
All right, so I'm doing my number 4, right? Oh yeah. So number 4 would be Twilight and Olympus, and this is one of the first. I think you burned me like a. Once I got into the Odyssey, you burned me just like 10, 12 songs, and a few of the songs off this album were on it, and I really, really love this record. I especially love Through the Looking Glass. I love the story, the Alice in Wonderland story. Is it called Through the Looking Glass? Is that the literary title?
I think.
I don't think it was called Alice.
Or...
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love that story, and they did it so well, and I love that song. This album kind of ran the full gamut of Symphony X. It had the really, really soft moments with the sonata, Lady of the Snow, and even parts of Through the Looking Glass. And then it had really heavy stuff with, what was that song called? Dragon's Den? Yeah. Relic, even Smoke and Mirrors. I love Smoke and Mirrors. I think that's one of their best songs. So yeah, I think this is pretty close to a perfect record. I didn't know that they were planning on adding on to it, but I thought it was kind of the perfect length. So anyway, I wouldn't change anything about it. All right, John, you're 3 through 1.
All right, top 3.
That's right.
Number 3, it's going to be The Divine Wings of Tragedy. 1997. Like I said earlier, Upsons and Shadows was my introduction to this band, and absolutely blew my mind. And, music's never been the same since. And
that's right.
It just goes on from there. I mean, there's not enough can be said about the other Sea of Lies, Out of the Ashes, and then the Accolade. I mean, it's just lyric wise and just kind of the emotion it conveys and the storytelling it's just phenomenal.
Sorry to interrupt you. Is that a completely original story by Russell?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
I'm ready for an Accolade Part 3.
I know. We need to find out what's happening next.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, of course, based on just historical information about the Knights Templar, but he just made a story out of it, and it's
kind of has a King Arthur vibe.
It does. Yeah, it has a total vibe. Pharaoh,
it has all the vibes.
Yeah, it has all of it. The Egyptian mythology stuff with Pharaoh, and then Greek mythology stuff with Isa Medusa. I mean, it's just that stuff is just so cool. And I think for us, we were exposed to that so much through school growing up, and then this hit us right about the right time where it's like you're familiar with some of these stories.
Yep.
And then the Divine Wings of Tragedy. I love how that starts off.
I know.
So whatever vocal technique they used for that, and I don't even know which voices are in those tracks. I'd always like to know that.
It could be just it's probably not just Russell. They're probably
it could honestly be everybody except Jason.
Yeah.
Because when you see them live, everybody else at some point has a mic.
Yeah, it's true.
So I don't know, but amazing stuff. I wish
that would be a good thing to do live. I mean, and they always go with the Odyssey, which is obviously a fan favorite, but I would love to hear that live. Yeah,
well, you can hear it live on the live album.
It is
on the Edge of Forever.
I do have that. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course they skip the intro and it just goes straight into the.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, they would probably just play the track anyway if they
Right.
did it. Yeah.
But it's the same technique they use on the kind of instrumental break of Sins and Shadows too, which
Okay.
is
Yeah.
just so cool. But anyways, love this album. Of course, the production's a little dated compared to Underworld or something like that, but
Of course.
the songs are just undeniable. So love this album. Number 2 is going to be V or 5 or I don't know. The New Mythology Suite.
Yeah.
And I just think I just find this record to be so captivating. I have to listen to it as a whole from beginning to end. Sure, I don't exactly know what story is being conveyed, but I certainly know which emotions being conveyed thanks to the arrangements and the vocal performance. And there's just so many great tracks on here. Evolution and Egypt were probably 2 of the earlier tracks I explored from Symphony X. When I heard of Sins and Shadows, I sort of, I think when I shared the story, it was Napster or LimeWire, one of those, and it was just, okay, let me just get all the Symphony X songs now, and just started downloading them.
Yeah.
Those are some of the first 2 that came up. The instrumental passages on this, just how orchestral it is, how it's arranged, it's stunning. It's it's up there with the kind of arrangement we would see on the Odyssey, I think.
Yeah.
In some respects.
Yeah.
And it's just fantastic.
They were definitely reaching their creative peak,
Yeah, and even parts where it's like the guitar's taken the focus, like Evolution, it's heavy, but there's so much going on around it with all the bits and pieces that it just allows it to be kind of a greater whole as opposed to just like a really guitar heavy track.
Well, I think they were the best at blending heavy riffs with the keyboard piano sound.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone does that better.
I don't think so. And at least also keeping those keyboard tracks and the orchestration very interesting.
Oh, for sure.
It's not just following the guitars, and it's not
just
just sort of
soloing,
like a pad.
Yeah.
It's genius. And then of course number 1's going to be the Odyssey. And huge part of this has got to be, the artwork is just amazing. Love that.
I know, it's one of the best. Yep.
What I love about this so much is, of course, the title track. I think the first 7 tracks could have been complete garbage, and it still would still be number 1 because of that title track.
Yeah,
but
they are not.
They are not, and we get the Accolade Part 2. We get to hear the continuation of that story.
Yep.
Love how much kind of homage they do to the first one, and they bring in so many of those kind of melodies and licks and stuff like that. Really, really appreciate that.
Definitely.
Just cool stuff, and of course, I love what Russell does on Wicked, where he kind of does his whole little vocal run thing there towards
kind of that Freddie Mercury run. Yeah,
love that. When I saw him do it live a couple times, he would take that and just do it over and over and over again. Every time we would see them here in SoCal, he would always have family present because he's originally from this area.
Yep.
And so I think
you live right next to the Medieval Times. I think he worked at.
He did Medieval Times when he went to the East Coast. Not the Buena Park.
No, he worked at the very first one, which I think is the Buena Park one, if I'm not mistaken. And then he eventually moved to New Jersey, and that's where he trained other.
Was that what it was?
Other knights, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, it's just fun to watch him in this area because when he's coming home, like Odysseus coming home.
Yeah.
Literally coming home, which is fun. And I'm going to share my favorite onstage banter I ever heard Russell Allen share before. And it just seems relevant to bring up because it was hilarious, and we can relate to this as Californians. But he's just kind of hollering to the crowd in between songs. And he was talking about, he misses like home because his new home is, of course, in Jersey. Yeah. And he's like, but I just I had to get back here to see you people or something to that effect. And I also had to get me a Western bacon cheese. I guess Hardee's doesn't have the same thing. Yeah, I had to look that up. But, of course, as Californians who grew up on Western bacon cheeseburger from Carl's Jr.
One of the best. Yep. But it's the best barbecue burger of any fast food. Yeah, it's not even close.
But that had to be my favorite thing I've ever heard from any band, just in onstage banter. That was like my favorite.
I mean, he is one of the most charismatic and just funny.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, for sure.
And it's cool because it's not a band that takes themselves too seriously. They obviously take their craft incredibly seriously when it comes to songwriting, it comes to the performance, like no other. But what's really fun is to see them in amidst, these very serious, maybe not like nonfiction type topics, but it's serious. It's not. This is not Ed Guy. These are not fun funny songs.
For sure.
But then you just get to see how they are on stage. They have just that joy of performing. They have the joy of being able to just kind of convey their craft to the audience. Really, really love that.
Definitely.
But anyway, that's about that. Back to you, bro.
And we never, who he doesn't get mentioned enough is Jason Rulo. How good of a drummer he is. I always thought.
Oh yeah.
That he should have been trying out for Dream Theater, even though he probably wouldn't have been able to balance both bands, which would have didn't want to lose him from the band. But
that's true. The whole band is.
Yeah, I mean the whole band's amazing, but
it is.
He's kind of the unsung hero,
Yeah, I would agree. It's similar to Dream Theater in that regard, where you just have a master class of every instrument, including of course the voice. It's just.
Yep.
It's insane.
Yep. And I always say, I mean, if they released albums more often, they might be considered my favorite band. Or at least they tie with Dream Theater. So they're amazing. All right, my number 3 is Paradise Lost. Now I heard a track from this album first. This is probably years before I even got into Symphony X. You played Paradise Lost for me, and I loved it immediately. And that's still to this day. It's definitely in my top 3 favorite Symphony X songs. I love it. It's perfect. It's one of the few that, like I said, you could do acoustically, and it's amazing. And then obviously production-wise, mix-wise, is where they made a leap forward. The guitar tone got heavier, more modern. So I just love the sound, and every song is pretty much gold. And it's just one of those albums I will go back to before the other ones. I can't say it's better than some of the previous ones I mentioned, but it's the one I want to listen to, And it has enough of the classic Symphony X sound. They didn't fully transition into kind of the iconoclast, super heavy. I mean, it's heavy, but it still has a little bit of the neoclassical sound. It's got enough of the piano sound that I like. So I thought it's the one album that's the perfect combination of the new Symphony X and the old. So just love it. All right, number 2, I'm going to go with the Divine Wings of Tragedy. Right, you had it at 3 or 2?
I had that number 3.
3, that's right. Okay. So this one I would say the first 4 songs, like if someone was to ask me, hey, what's Symphony X all about? I might give them the first 4 songs from this album. With we got Of Sins and Shadows, Seal Eyes, Out of the Ashes. Out of the Ashes was one of the first songs that really drew me in. So catchy, that chorus. And then The Accolade, that kind of gives you a little bit of everything that Symphony X does. The album is almost perfect. We talked about the title track, The Epic. It's amazing. It's one we definitely want to hear live. And just one of my favorites. Just listened to it yesterday. Had to give it a fresh listen before this, but man, I love that record. And then number 1, no surprise, is The Odyssey. It was on both of our top 5 Desert Island albums. It's one of my favorites. It's the first metal album I really got into, and it's obviously, like I said, in my top 5 all-time metal albums. It's I think it's amongst the best just metal albums, period. It's the top few progressive metal albums. Accolade 2 is one of the songs, because I was coming from the classic rock, bands like Kansas, Foreigner, and that was the perfect song to get me kind of started, because I think initially I was like, maybe this band's a little too heavy for me. Then I heard Accolade 2, and I played that like 20 straight times, and that's what really, really hooked me. And then the title track is the best track I think they've ever written. It's one of the best epics ever. It has a little bit of everything. I loved The Odyssey when I was a kid, that in 6th grade, reading that and watching the movie. The way they tell the whole story in a 20-minute song or 24 minutes, whatever it is incredible. They really take every major section of the story, and they're able to throw it into a song. It's just incredible. I think it's my favorite Russell Allen album as well, and I think he's one of the best vocalists on earth. So it's the pinnacle of their songwriting and the peak of their creativity. That's what I would say. And yeah, it's perfect. I think it's their best. And it would be the album. If someone said, "Hey, what's the album I should start with?" Symphony X, I would give them that album for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, which is interesting because we put Metropolis Part 2 as our number ones for Dream Theater, right? And I wouldn't necessarily give that to somebody for the first listen.
That's very true. Yeah.
You got to go Odyssey, I think, for the first one, because I mean it's going to take a while to get to the epic. Of course, most people wouldn't have the patience for that.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't hook you from that immediate riff.
Yeah, Inferno. Yeah. Exactly.
Totally. All right. Agree. That's it. We had a lot of similarities.
We did. Yeah, it was pretty close this time. Well, since there's 9, we knew it would be fairly close.
Bit more overlap for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Well,
want to introduce our next guest, John. We're going to bring in our cousin again.
Right on. Okay. Yeah. Let's bring on CJ and let's get his picks here in just a moment.
That's right. So yeah, bringing in CJ Price, third member of the X Pack, and we got that name because of our love for Symphony X. That was the band we bonded over first. So anyway, we will be back with Mr. CJ Price. More candid talk.
Hey. Yeah.
All right. We're here with CJ Price once again. More candid talk with CJ. We're going over our favorite Symphony X albums from worst to best. CJ, are you aware of our list already, or no?
I know Michael's, but I didn't see John's.
Oh,
I don't know if it was sent
nice,
to me or not.
John. We didn't drop the ball. Anyway,
doesn't matter.
Just let's hear your list. But first, you're going to talk a little bit of how we got our name, the X Pack, and the bond we forged since then.
So we are the X Pack. That's what we called ourselves. Nobody else called us that, but we were calling ourselves that. We really tried to get it off the ground. But Symphony X at the House of Blues in Hollywood, one of the worst venues in the world. Glad it's gone. It was the first concert that we all went to together as a group. I was sick as a dog. I remember it was the day before my birthday, or it was my birthday. And as I was leaving school with you boys to go see the show in Hollywood, my friend, who is also a metal fan, Christian DeVore, shout out, flashed an X to me. Then I flashed it to you boys afterwards because I loved it so much and it caught on. I did it at my high school graduation. And then ever since then, we've been the X Pack.
Yeah, I did that at my college graduation.
No matter what band we went to go see, we were the X Pack. And people, they'd be like, who were they? And we'd be like, it doesn't matter. You're not in. You're not important if you don't know
That's
the
right.
X-Boys.
Just the three of us. So.
And we've been the X Pack ever since. And it's been about 11 years. You guys have children. I never will. But the X Pack will never die.
That's right.
For sure.
That's right.
But Symphony X, one of my all-time favorite bands. Let's get this list started. I'm going to get the list started.
Let's do it.
You're probably not going to agree with this, but this is my least favorite Symphony X album. I listened to it one time, and then I stopped. 2015's Underworld. Was not a fan. Did not like it.
Really?
Didn't have a good time with it. I
thought you were joking into a lead-in for the self-titled.
I really thought he was joking.
No, that's next. That's next, baby.
Underworld is great.
I didn't like it. I listened to it one time. Didn't hook me. None of it.
None of it
was hooking.
All right. Well, after we're done with this, you're gonna have to go listen to it again because you're sorely mistaken here.
I really don't like it when you tell me what to do, and I'll just
all right. So
after that, obviously self-titled has to be bottom 2.
How do you put a non-Russell album ahead of a Russell album? Is
because I've listened to that album more than Underworld. I listened to that album maybe
that's
twice.
the problem.
Underworld 1.
So one time for Underworld,
twice for self-titled.
So twice as much. Right.
Yeah.
And then this next one, I think I listened to the whole album once, but the title song for me is decent enough that it's not bottom 2. That's Damnation Game.
Okay.
I think Damnation Game is a decent song. The album, I'm out.
Hey,
was-
the Edge of Forever is great, and Winter's Dream, John? Part
Winter's
1 and 2.
See, I don't
That's
even know
a-
what you're talking about.
It's a great song.
Remember, I'm not as up to date as you boys are. So this list is going entirely off of like my 2015 opinions on the albums.
Okay.
So there's no like
Fair enough.
reviewing them. There's no re-listening to them. Like as it gets down are the albums that I listen to the most. It also is like the Underworld came out after it came out in 2015, which was when
Mhm.
I was kind of slowing down, and like that's when I started like doing comedy and everything like that. So I've just been busy with
Yeah.
no traction to show for it, no career advancement whatsoever. But it's like I had to take a step back on music because I was like obsessed with it, and then just start focusing entirely on comedy.
Well, as you
and-
write your
and-
jokes, listen to some sweet tunes, all right?
I like watching Jerry Seinfeld's Comedian on Netflix anytime I'm writing. That's the go-to move. I have that in the background.
You can't
That's
listen to comedy while you're writing comedy.
It's not. I'm not watching stand-up. It's a documentary about
Oh,
stand-up. I
sorry.
don't have to explain the business to you. All right.
Oh, so sorry.
All right.
I know
But I
you're
want
the
someone-
comedy expert here.
I need someone to explain the business to me though, because I am struggling. After Damnation Game, an album that I actually really enjoyed, and I thought it was a little bit underrated, Iconoclast. I liked a lot of the
Okay.
songs off of it. I listened to it repeatedly, and also huge fan of What Happened. I bought it with a graduation present that I received, which was a Visa gift card,
Yeah.
and the Visa gift card only had $15 on it, and I bought the deluxe package. And then when it said it didn't go through because there's only $15 on the gift card, I tried to put it in again, not thinking that the money was on there, and then I just gave up because it said denied. And then they sent me 2
I remember
free
that.
of charge.
Yeah.
Gave one to my buddy. Felt zero remorse about it. Great album. I think it was like came with a signed picture, a T-shirt,
Yeah.
and the album for like $30-something, which seemed like a ridiculous deal to begin with. But then when you get 2 of them for free, come on. That's why I saw them. I think we saw them twice, back-to-back nights on that tour, though, right?
Yeah.
Iconoclast
I think
tour.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we saw them.
because they
yeah.
came to where?
That's when
Santa,
they toured,
Anaheim or Santa
with
Ana?
Iced Earth. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And I remember the first one, I almost got ran over by a roadie with like a cart full of like equipment and everything like that.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, we got in like a fight, and they kicked me out. I don't know.
I remember
maybe
there was another kind of scene where Michael Romeo threw a guitar pick, and you were trying to get it right,
Yeah,
and then you ended up getting in a fight with a guy in the front row.
yeah.
Do you want to
And
get it?
he
How did,
Yeah.
He
how did
won.
I miss all
He
this?
won.
Because he wanted to get it for you. He's like, this guy deserves it, not you. I
Oh,
forgot. Like,
it's all right, CJ. Just so you know,
He got 2. I
I have
remember the
one.
guy had 2, and I was like, hey.
oh, that's why that was the
and he
the,
like
the issue.
Romeo pointed at me at the
That's
road
right. Yep.
because I was like loud and singing along to all the songs. Like
I remember
even
him-
messed up a lyric.
I
and he
remember him
pointed at me
laughing
and
at you.
laughed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I'll never live down. Like I was honestly, I was drinking a lot after that. I was about to jump. I never recovered physically from that or mentally.
That
It was
was
just a bad time.
that was the highlight of your life, though.
I
John,
did get a
we,
drumstick though
we didn't mention you did get a drumstick.
from Iced Earth. Yeah, that same night. So
Oh.
missed out.
Oh yeah,
Missed out on.
and you
the
gave me
night.
that.
But
Smedley.
yeah, I just gave it to you.
John,
that
we
I had to
didn't
pull
mention that we went to the listening party too for that album,
Right,
and that was pretty cool because they had like a raffle, and John, you actually won a copy of Iconoclast, and you gave it to a guy. It was pretty.
No, I won a copy of Sounds of a Playground Fading by In Flames.
Oh,
That I gave out because I already
that's what
had
you
it.
did. Gotcha. Anyway,
It
still
was a big night. They were trying to play like 5 different new releases that night, and they started with In Flames,
yeah.
and I was like, okay. And then they played Iconoclast, and they were like, hey, you ready to go? Yeah, we can go. We got the 2 we wanted. That was
Yeah.
fun.
was fun.
Yeah. I didn't go.
Sorry, CJ, you weren't
Uh,
there, so you weren't,
Yeah, I was
weren't
probably
invited.
working. I was
Yeah,
probably
you probably-
working. I was
probably
probably
were.
stiff back then. But I think we went to the Century media sale, though. Right?
We did, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
a couple days after.
Went to a
Oh,
couple of those. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, those were great.
Yep.
It's great being a metal fan. I think I said it last time I was on the show. It's the most
Yeah.
affordable genre
many-
of music.
Yeah, how
Yeah,
many
it's-
albums did we buy for $1?
I know, we got so
Great.
much.
Albums that we
DVDs
love
for
to.
$3.
Or vinyls that were just, $40 and we got for a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Plus they didn't like really keep, close tabs on what you were buying, so they'd kind of just add it up like a yard sale.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it was awesome.
Yeah, I think they like gave me something too. They were like,
Yes.
this doesn't even have a sticker.
Throwing
That's
stuff
yours."
into the crowd.
Yeah. No, I sold a lot of this stuff years later for a lot
Yeah.
more than I paid for it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
I mean,
same here.
a lot of those metal vinyls, for some reason, increase in value.
Oh, they do.
Probably because they
Yep.
because they print
yeah.
like 30 of them because they're like,
Yeah.
there's no way we're selling more than this, and then they become limited edition. Like I looked up the Odyssey vinyl, which I still have, and that's worth like $170, $200,
Yeah,
which
it
is
is.
insane.
Yeah.
I gotta sell that. My rent just went up. I gotta sell that. All right, after Iconoclast, I have V or 5. The
Okay.
New Mythology Suite. Great album. Nothing to add to it. Just
It's just really
Good.
good.
It's
Just
just
good.
great.
V, and then the next one, Twilight and Olympus, are 2 albums I really enjoyed, but didn't listen to them as much as my top 3 that I'll get to in a sec.
Okay.
But yeah, 2 albums, obviously, as they're hitting their stride as a band, like it's past like their first 2 debut albums, first 3 albums, I think, right? Because what was Damnation Game was the 3rd or the 2nd album?
The second.
Second, gotcha.
And, yep.
So I think that was when they were like really just found who they were as a band during that period of time. They had their identity down real strong. So 2 just quality albums. My 3rd, Bronze Medal, but number 1 in a lot of people's hearts. Amazing album. Just for me, I didn't listen to it as much as my top 2, is The Odyssey. The Odyssey
Oh,
is
really?
obviously, yeah,
Hmm.
that's number 3 for me. Because of my personal preference of the top 2, I listened to a lot more than I listened to The Odyssey.
Okay.
But the Odyssey was in constant rotation. Back when a CD like changer in your car was a big deal, it was one of the 6.
Yeah.
It was one of the 6 CDs that was
Would-
in
well,
good
would-
rotation for a period.
Would you say that the Odyssey is their best song, or your favorite? It's not your favorite song.
It's not my favorite song.
Hmm.
No, it's probably their masterpiece, I would say.
Yeah.
But it's not my favorite song. My favorite song
Okay.
is off my number 1 album. It's
Okay.
also the first song I ever heard by them, which was played by John to both of us in the driveway of your parents' house in Riverside.
Oh, really? So it goes back before that. I thought the first time you heard him was when I played for you End of Innocence, to be honest with you.
No, that wasn't the first one.
Okay.
That was like what like sealed it for me. But the first song was, anyways. We'll get to the first album.
We'll
in a
get to
second.
it, yeah.
But second place was the most recent album when I first started listening to them. 2007's Paradise Lost.
Okay.
That for me is number 2, just because I listened to that over and over and over again in preparation for the first concert of going, because I figured they were going to play a ton of tracks off of it,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing that metal bands survive off their fans, so they will play older songs as well. Because I'm so used to like modern music where they'll play a couple hits, but then they're like, "We're going to play our entire album." And you're like, "No." Why
although they when they have an album out, they play
they
a
play
good,
a ton.
good chunk
Yeah.
of it. But
Yeah,
the first
they
time we
also-
saw them, the album wasn't out yet. So
But
Yeah.
Paradise Lost had been out for a minute, so they were playing a good
Mhm.
amount off that. They played the Odyssey as an entirety. Was
They
the
did, yeah.
encore, which
That
is
was
an
aw-
insane encore to give us.
It was
I love
awesome.
that.
yep. Because 2 bands I think pulled out of the tour. Do you remember which 2 bands they were, John?
Oh yeah, that was a bummer. You guys missed out. I missed out.
Well, it wasn't a bummer because we weren't into those bands at the
Yeah,
time.
I know, but looking back though, someday you're gonna wish like, oh, it would have been great to see. So it was Nevermore, and it was maybe Soilwork. I don't know if you necessarily have any regrets about that, but Nevermore. I mean, with Royals passing a few years ago, like I'm so bummed I never got to see them. That would have been such a good show.
Instead, we got Power Glove. And,
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Black Star, or no, that's a rap group.
Yeah, it was
Shoot.
something.
Blackguard.
Blackguard. They were
Blackguard, that sounds
horrible.
right.
Oh,
Fantastic.
oh
All right,
my
CJ, what
God.
number are you on?
That was number 2, Paradise Lost.
Okay, number 2.
Number 1, my favorite album by them. The first album that I was shown by them, Divine Wings of Tragedy.
Okay.
I think that to me is number 1. Of Sins and Shadows is my favorite Symphony X song. It's That and Sea of Lies are probably
Mm-hmm.
2 of my top 10 songs of all time.
Okay.
Metal songs.
Okay.
They're 2 that I can listen to over and over and over again. The artwork of the album, the name of the album, if that doesn't get you into like symphonic metal and progressive metal, then it's just not for you. You're just not nerdy enough to get into it. If that
or
artwork,
not
you know,
cool enough. All right.
Yeah. All right. We're really cool with the pop figures in the background. We're the coolest people in
Hey,
the
excuse
world.
me. These are
And my Pulp Fiction poster.
Iron Maiden.
Hey, I got my Dragon
My
Ball
bad.
Z shirt. Come on, that's pretty cool.
I stand corrected. I know. Anyway, yeah, that's my list. Divine Wings of Tragedy is my number 1. Just the nostalgia factor behind it. It's what got me into the band.
Okay.
I think Of Sins and Shadows was the opening song the first time we saw them, and that's number 1. That's the one that I still listen to this day.
Okay.
Like continually, it's in rotation now, and I listened to it for the first time 11 years ago.
Okay.
So, that's it. That's the list.
Good reasoning there.
I know you guys didn't agree with the Underworld thing, but
No, not at all.
I honestly don't remember it.
I'm still disappointed.
so-
I'm
but-
still,
Hey.
yeah.
But you know what
Hey.
though? It's on a serious note. Appreciate having you here and giving a real contrarian
Yep.
list compared to ours, because ours were very similar. So that was actually kind of refreshing.
Yeah. That's
Hey.
what you're here. That's what you're here for, CJ.
I wrote this list in about 3 minutes.
Nice
Hey.
job.
That's all you need.
That's right.
John,
when you
John,
believe-
John was like picking his list right before we pushed record. So
It's true. It's true. Well, hey, it was from the heart.
Mine too.
Well, guys, should we wrap this up?
yep, let's
Yep.
do it.
All right. Well, we want to thank everyone for tuning in to this ranking of our favorite Symphony X albums. I want to thank CJ for dropping by again.
Yep.
And I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
Stay tuned for more content from the Brothers of Metal. Let's give our sign on the way out, boys.
X out.
Oh yeah. X back.
Later,
All right.
boys.
Take care,
Later.
everybody.
Take care.